नमस्कार। एंटी कोविड वैक्सीनेशन के मामले में भारत ने 200 करोड़ के आंकड़े को पार कर लिया है। सरकारी क्षेत्र में इसे एक बड़ी उपलब्धि मानकर इसका खूब प्रचार प्रसार किया जा रहा है। लेकिन हेल्थ एक्सपर्ट्स का एक ऐसा वर्ग भी है जो इसे उपलब्धि न मानकर आंकड़ा मात्र मान रहे हैं। उनका कहना है कि मास वैक्सीनेशन की जगह फोकस्ड वैक्सीनेशन हो तो बेहतर परिणाम निकल सकते हैं।
We kickstart this episode of yoga on sound healing.
So, sound healing, like Sir has said, of course, we have ragas in Indian classical music like that. We have ragas in our body, right? So we have 7 energy centers in our body, and each energy center has a different meaning, has a different vibration, has different energy. So sometimes what happens, like before this session, we saw the video on sleep. So sometimes what happens if energy center is imbalanced, it can cause the imbalance in the entire body. Like our body is our universe. ठीक है, हमारा बॉडी हमारा टेम्पल है, हमारा पूरा यूनिवर्स है। अगर उसमें एक एनर्जी सेंटर को रेफर करें, उसका नाम होता है चक्रा। क्योंकि हमारे बॉडी में 7 to 8 चक्रास होते हैं, राइट? तो अगर उसमें से एक चक्रा इम्बैलेंस्ड है या क्लोज्ड है या उसमें प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है, फिर पूरा जो एनर्जी सेंटर है, पूरा जो बॉडी है, वो डिसबैलेंस्ड हो जाती है। So we'll start with the first. I'll just explain you the goals. Okay. So here I have 7 goals, as I think you can see properly. Okay. So I will start explaining from this. So I have placed the small goals, as you can see, behind, and then I'm coming to the big goals like this. Okay. जैसे हमारे 7 सुर होते हैं, वैसे ही सारे गामा, तो वैसे ही ये 7 goals. Everything 7, right? 7 energy center, 7 chakra, 7 raga, 7 sur. Okay, so now you have your belly. And this bowl, this small bowl right here, this is the crown chakra. So crown chakra मतलब जो हमारे हेड के ऊपर वाला हेलो चक्रा, this is the energy center. And this stands for your bliss, joy and ecstasy. जब आप बहुत ज़्यादा खुश होते हो, everybody let's imagine कि हम सबसे आपका जिंदगी का अभी तक बेस्ट मोमेंट, ठीक है? तो हम आइज क्लोज करके इमेजिन करेंगे कि हमारा सबसे लाइफ का बेस्ट मोमेंट, जिसमें हमें कुछ ग्रीड नहीं, कुछ लेन देन नहीं, बस हम डीपली हैप्पी, ठीक है? So you can visualize that moment when you were very deeply blissed, joy, just deeply happy. Okay, so yes, so this is the activation for that, and then you have your other one, that is your A, and this is for your third eye between your eyebrows. This is your Agna chakra, right? And for this you have your intellect, wisdom, and energy. तो इस बोल से हम अपने, तो ये बोल हमारा ब्लिस और जॉय और अपना हेलो चक्रा एक्टिवेट करता है। फिर हमारा ये वाला थर्ड आई जो कि है आपका विजडम, इंटेलेक्ट, ठीक है, वो एक्टिवेट करता है। This is when you're doing your meditation. Sometimes you get visions of wisdom and all of that, so you activate like this, ठीक है? Then you have your G, that is your throat. That is very important. Your throat chakra, that is for your throat, your communication, your emotions, okay, expressions. So this is very important because आजकल लोगों का जो इमोशनल चक्रा है वो काफी डिसबैलेंस्ड हो रहा है। क्यों डिसबैलेंस्ड हो रहा है? डिफरेंट रीजंस के जो मैंने पहले स्टेट करा, ठीक है? किसी और का मूड खराब है तो हमारा इमोशन खराब हो जाए, किसी ने आपसे बुरी बात करी तो हमारा इमोशन खराब हो जाए। This is actually one of the very important goals, okay, because this will तो इसकी आप वाइब्रेशन अगर सुनो तो आपको फील होएगा कितनी स्ट्रॉन्ग वाइब्रेशन, ठीक है। इंस्टेंटली इट विल रीच अ सेंस ऑफ कामनेस बिकॉज इट्स डायरेक्टली वर्किंग ऑन योर इमोशंस, ठीक है।
On July 17th, India achieved a landmark of having 200 crore vaccination done against COVID. Now, to discuss this topic on 200 crore vaccine mark, what next? You had a very interesting graph to show, and that after one line of vaccination, and you showed that after a period of time, you had increased number of cases and increased number of deaths, almost similar. But can you give us details about what is the age population, what is the susceptibility? This seemed to be very universal. Now, what was the size? What are the people who developed infection and those who died? Well, were they aged people? What is the population scenario?
Actually, this is the limitation. This is the ecological data, population-based data. So we have to go at a granular level, but that is also available over the 2 years. We know adequate about the virus, that the probability of an elderly dying above 70 years is 1,000 more than a person below 18 years dying. So we could have used this from the very beginning when we had rolled out the vaccine. And then also we know, like Dr. Sanjay Rai said, 2 child in 1 million die with infection, and those 2 child are comorbid child. So we could have identified these vulnerable groups, elderly above 70 and people with comorbidities, perhaps children with comorbidities, and left the rest of the population to go on their natural duties. And this vaccine we could have then kept on doing pan corona or different strains, because now you cannot keep on changing the strain for the whole world population. That would be very costly affair, and by the time you change it, there is a new variant. And once we get a natural infection, I don't think we should be afraid of reinfection, because reinfection is going to be milder after mutation, because as per the Darwin's law, the mutations become milder, and that acts as a natural booster. I mean, that person has a natural infection and he or she gets a reinfection. We have done our own studies, we have published it, we have followed up more than 1,000 people after the first wave. In the second wave, only 13 got the reinfection and all got very mild. So it was about 1.3 reinfection. And we should not be afraid of mutations. And I think this should be, we can't run after, because now we may get now people are saying you get influenza virus. Because firstly, vaccines do not, respiratory vaccines, vaccines for respiratory viruses cannot prevent transmission. Because you see, the entry of the virus is through the respiratory. Antibodies are in the blood. It is like that you have a gun in your bedroom and the gangster comes to the drawing room. By the time you take up the gangster has already entered and you are looking for the gun in the bedroom. So the antibodies are in the blood and the respiratory route is the first way.
डेनमार्क ने कहा है, एक्सेप्ट किया है, रादर कन्फेस किया है कि बच्चों को वैक्सीन लगाना एक गलती थी उनकी। भारत के संदर्भ में आपकी क्या प्रतिक्रिया?
देखिए, पब्लिक हेल्थ में हम हमेशा देखते हैं कि रिस्क कितना है, बेनिफिट कितना है। अगर बेनिफिट ज्यादा है, क्योंकि एक एक इंडिविजुअल पे हम डिसीजन नहीं लेते हैं, ओवरऑल रिस्क किसी भी एक्टिविटी का, किसी भी इंटरवेंशन का रिस्क और बेनिफिट एनालिसिस हम करते हैं। जब हम रिस्क एंड बेनिफिट एनालिसिस एडल्ट में कर रहे थे, उस समय जब सस्टेनेबल पॉपुलेशन था, तो बेनिफिट जो है उसके फेवर में था वैक्सीनेशन के, क्योंकि जो भी लिटरेचर अवेलेबल था 80 to 90% रिड्यूस कर रहा था इन सस्टेनेबल पॉपुलेशन। द प्रॉब्लम इज हम सस्टेनेबल पॉपुलेशन को भूल जाते हैं, हम 80 to 90% करें। ये बिगिनिंग में जब हम क्लिनिकल ट्रायल करते, मैं सारे क्लिनिकल ट्रायल में कर रहा था, एडल्ट में किया, बूस्टर भी मैंने किया है, क्लिनिकल ट्रायल बच्चों में भी मैंने किया है। तो उस समय जो है सस्टेनेबल पॉपुलेशन में था, रिडक्शन हो रहा था, हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन भी कम हो रहा था, डेथ भी कम हो रहा था, वह था। तो एडल्ट में अगर 80 to 90% मान लीजिए रिडक्शन हो रहा है, और कुछ वैक्सीन एसोसिएटेड प्रॉब्लम्स भी हो रही हैं, सीवियर एडवर्स इवेंट फॉलोइंग इम्यूनाइजेशन कई होती हैं। मैसेंजर आरएनए वैक्सीन को देखिए तो कार्डियोमायोपैथी करता है, पेरिकार्डाइटिस करता है, कोई ब्लड क्लॉटिंग कुछ वैक्सीन्स करते हैं, थर्मोसाइटोपिनिया करता है, जीबी सिंड्रोम करते हैं, तो कई हैं, बट ये सब रेयर होते हैं। वैक्सीन से। तो अगर सीरियस एडवर्स इवेंट को हम उसमें काउंट भी करते थे एडल्ट पॉपुलेशन में, तो चूंकि 1.5% के आसपास केस फेटलिटी रेट था, इन्फेक्शन फेटलिटी रेट की मैं बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, केस फेटलिटी रेट था उस समय, उसमें अगर रिडक्शन हो रहा था तो काफी ज्यादा बेनिफिट था जब तक पॉपुलेशन ससेप्टेबल था। जब पॉपुलेशन ससेप्टेबल खत्म हो गया तो वो भी बेनिफिट खत्म हो गया वैक्सीनेशन का। चिल्ड्रन के केस में यह ऐसा नहीं था जो डेनमार्क ने कहा, किसी कंट्री ने। आप देख लीजिए, जिस दिन लॉन्च हुआ था मैंने कहा था कि दिस विल इंक्रीज द डेथ्स अमंग चिल्ड्रन। वो इसलिए हो सकता है क्योंकि यहाँ पे 1.5% नहीं मर रहे हैं, मतलब हर 10 लाख में करीब 15,000 लोग नहीं मर रहे हैं एडल्ट जैसे। 18 साल से कम में जो है या 2 पर मिलियन है, मतलब हर 10 लाख में 2 बच्चे मर रहे हैं। यहाँ पे अगर रिस्क बेनिफिट आप करते हैं इवन ससेप्टेबल पॉपुलेशन, वो मैं मान के चलता हूँ कि हमारे किसी भी बच्चों को इन्फेक्शन नहीं हुआ।
In your practice, do you think the cases of COVID is being hyped up when you have many other problems like tuberculosis, malnutrition, deaths due to various other things, also children dying? So do you think that we are over-focusing on COVID and defocusing in many other areas where India really needs attention?
Yes, absolutely right. I totally agree with your question also, that since we all are aware that when the COVID started, so it was so deadly that everyone, each and every individual, the focus was only on the COVID. Even with any kind of symptoms, the assumption was initially before testing or anything that it was presumed that it is COVID, and the panic was created. In my practical experience, I have seen practically patients in both first, second, third waves. I have been in COVID ward and seen the patients. But yes, there were many patients who were having other problems also, like you quoted tuberculosis. So there were many patients with active tuberculosis, and because it was a protocol when a patient with COVID presented with respiratory symptoms, a CT scan of the chest was also done. So at times, there were a number of times when the evidence of tuberculosis was seen in the lungs, but there was no evidence of any COVID pneumonia or viral pneumonia was seen. Similarly, the patient presented in OPD with the complaints of, I'm talking about the time when the COVID was at peak. The patient presented with complaint of fever and some sore throat and all. It was by default assumed that the patient must be having COVID. So, and even the patients coming there were also, whether we go for testing or not, you just start with the treatment for COVID if whatever is comfortable for me or I can be cured. But on evaluation and further investigations which were done, the number of diseases were there which were detected, which patients were not aware, or before, if patient was evaluated somewhere else, those particular type of diseases were not ruled out. So because of this pandemic, COVID, and right now also at present scenario also, this is something that basic diseases or the basic illnesses which are there or which can be cured if treated on time. There were patients who were coming with chest pain and all and coming out to be myocardial infarction. It was patients of MI, heart attack. But chest pain, but fever, cold cough, the first thing was COVID. So the treatment started on line of COVID. The investigation evaluation was done on the basis of COVID. But true, with all these, this was basically a panic which was created because of that. All these illnesses which could have been taken care of before or we should have been ruled out, those were missed somewhere.
Dr. Rai, one thing is there, you said that the spike protein mutates very fast. So is it possible in future to have a pan-coronavirus vaccine rather?
I don't think so. It's very difficult to predict about the mutations, right? More than thousands of mutations have already occurred. Although the variant of concerns are only 5, but more than, even in this country, we have documented more than thousands of the mutations.
So what's the solution? Have a vaccine every year?
Now we have evidence that those who recovered from the COVID, they are better protected, right? Better protected from severity and death. Reinfection may occur or breakthrough infection may occur, right? both are providing protection, but your vaccines are not providing protection from the infection. They are providing protection from the severity and death in susceptible population. Whereas natural infections is providing protection from the reinfection also. The rate of reinfection is much lower, those who recovered from the COVID. If you compare with the vaccinated group, if you compare breakthrough infection versus reinfection, the reinfection rate are still, even during Omicron, there are a lot of publications. As I mentioned earlier, daily we are producing almost 100 publications. So overall, in due course of time, entire world we will lose this susceptible population, and whatever knowledge we have, we can say those who recovered from COVID, they are the best protected person on this earth as of now. So I don't think that this is going to create a problem. In those countries, this will create problem who never had COVID wave, like your Singapore, or now they have. So they had COVID a few months ago. Now I can say even these countries are also protected.